Hey, good evening. Welcome to Strategic Management in a Post-Christian Era. Again, my name is Justin, and I'm with Ekklesia. Today, in Session 3, we're going to be talking about vision and mission statements. We're going to look at what do we want to become, what is our business, the importance of vision and mission statements, characteristics of a mission statement, components of a mission statement, and what it is to write and evaluate mission statements. So, the first question, what do we want to become? This is the question that we have to wrestle with in order to come up with a written vision statement for our organization, something that's going to drive who we are becoming by answering that question. For the Christian, in the Scriptures, it says that God will be all and in all. Now, once you state something like that, then you have to go about gathering agreement from others and commitment from others. But first, what we want to think about is how do we arrive at that statement? It comes through communication. It comes through talking with your stakeholders. That's going to help you in getting agreement and commitment from them. The very fact that they participated in developing the vision statement. The vision statement should be developed first and foremost concerning your business. Knowing who you want to become, having that future reality come forward and meet you in the present in the form of a vision statement is so incredibly important to keeping on track as an organization. The statement should be short, preferably one sentence, and the input should be collected from as many as possible. Again, this needs to be wise and reasonable. Obviously, you can't include everyone in the decision on exactly how to word the vision, but you want to include as many people as you possibly can, and then wisely articulate and craft a vision statement to really help to lead the way for your organization. What is our business is the next question, and this is going to help us to formulate a mission statement. And the mission statement is more about present, like what are we doing right now in order to attain to this vision statement that we've set forth. And in the Holy Scriptures, from a Christian perspective, we look at this ancient wisdom, Jesus, who is the Son of God, who was essentially crucified, buried, and resurrected or raised from the dead, so that God could declare His goodness and His faithfulness and His love. So going back to our vision statement, that God may be all and in all, if there is a God who is so incredibly loving that He would send His own Son to be brutally murdered and then raise Him from the dead just to prove His commitment and His love for us, that's the kind of God that we want to be all and in all. And so this Jesus, whom He raised from the dead, says this, after He was raised from the dead, says, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." And so here we have this amazing mission statement that states the person who's leading, what we're attaining to, how we're supposed to go about doing what we're supposed to do, who it is that we're actually speaking and ministering to, who we're serving essentially, and what the result of that is, and the encouragement of how we're actually going to attain to it, what the presence of this victorious one is going to be with us through the entire process. That's incredibly encouraging when you're talking about sending people into the whole world in order to teach them a completely different way of life than they've ever experienced before. So a mission statement is a statement defining our business. It gives a foundation for priorities, for strategies, for plans, and work assignments. And developing a mission statement is a process that is both challenging and rewarding. If you read any of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, and you see what Jesus, this man, went through with his disciples in order to be able to arrive at this statement, it's really pretty amazing. And so the question, what is our business, knowing what we are to be about in the present in order to attain to this future vision that we have set forth for our organization, is absolutely paramount. These are central things to you guys developing your businesses here in Statesville in order to be able to serve the community in a way that's going to be fruitful, utilizing some of this ancient wisdom and seeing, well, that does make sense. It's pretty practical. And so as we put these things to work for you in the local area, glorifying God because it's the wisdom that we're gaining from the Holy Scriptures that have come to us, it's going to absolutely transform your work environment, and it's going to absolutely transform this community in a positive way if we approach it appropriately. So, again, the two major questions to wrestle with are, who do we want to be, and what is our business? The importance of a vision and a mission statement. Research has shown that companies that have a formal vision and mission statement have tended to have had an average return on shareholders' equity that is twice what those firms without that formal mission statement has been. They've also said, certain researchers, that using mission statements, and companies that have done so, have a 30% higher return on certain financial measures than firms without such statements. Now, this is not magic. The fact of the matter is that developing a vision and a mission statement, the process of doing it, the quality of that statement, and the commitment to it that is gained through spending time with your employees, actually being who you are and allowing everyone space to express who they want to be within this organization and what they think the business is. Now, there have been many times in businesses where key decision makers could not come to an agreement on what their vision was or how they wanted to attain to it, and most of the time, the companies, especially with major players who couldn't get on the same page with this, would end up being in an organization that would eventually fail and go bankrupt. So again, it comes down to the quality of the statement and the commitment to it, not just of those putting it forth kind of from a top-down perspective, but as you include more and more stakeholders, then you're going to gather and garner more commitment, and you're going to see the fruit of your labor actually far more likely than if you don't. Characteristics of a mission statement. Ancient wisdom says, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. All right, so maybe all of you don't have much of a Christian background. Who is this Son of Man? What does that mean? So if we go back even further to even more ancient wisdom, there's a book called Daniel, and it talks about all of these kingdoms, let's call them organizations, and how they each contributed positively and negatively, but eventually they weren't built to last. But then he talks about this Son of Man that comes forth, and he actually attains to a level way beyond anything that these other organizations or kingdoms have attained to, and he is placed in a position of absolute authority, and from that place of authority he is given a kingdom or an organization that endures and that lasts eternally. So this Son of Man that the Scriptures talk about says he came to serve, not to be served. That's a very, very interesting thing. When we talk about the characteristics of a mission statement, the vision that we have, again, as Christians, is Jesus himself. He is the Son of Man, one who came to serve rather than to be served, and that informs everything that we should see about the mission statement. The mission statement serves us to keep us motivated. The mission statement serves us to keep on track so that we don't go this way or that way. We saw that graphic last week or last session, where you had everyone headed in this, you had the whole organization headed in a certain direction, but then within the organization, everybody was kind of doing their own thing, and that created some confusion. Something like this, identifying your mission statement as something that is to serve your people and expressing it to them as this is for you. This is actually to help you stay on track, help us stay on track, and to be fruitful. Remember the vision that we talked about? You are committed to that. We want to attain to that. And so this is what this mission statement is for. It's here to serve us, to help us to stay on track in doing what we're called to do as an organization, whether it's a business, a nonprofit, whatever it is that you're going to be able to put these concepts to work of strategic management for you in your organization. So, a declaration of attitude and outlook more than a statement of specific details. So again, it should be broad, the statement, but it should allow you to say, hey, this is the way we look at things. This is the way that we are in the midst of this community and what we're about as far as our business goes. This is what we're bringing forth. And as you express that to your employees, as you express that to your customers, to your vendors, it's going to help them understand how to interact with your organization more clearly. It does not stifle the creativity or limit the potential of creative growth for your organization. Again, it should define your attitude and your outlook, but it shouldn't be so specific that it hinders you from growing and being creative within the actual mission. It must be broad in order to reconcile differences and appeal to the diverse stakeholders. You most likely have a lot of different people with different perspectives and different understandings that are in your organization, and each of them has special gifts, and each of them can bring something to the table to help your organization develop and grow towards the vision. But by communicating the mission to them clearly, giving them something central to focus on, it's going to help them say, well, how can I bring something to this? Because the vision sounds great. The mission sounds like I could actually be included in that. And so yeah, show me where I fit in. Help me to discover where I can actually fit in and bring something that I have to be able to contribute. A good mission statement is going to arouse positive feelings about an organization. When you set forth your vision and your mission statement to people that are going to work for your organization, or you set forth your vision or mission statement to people who are going to be buying your products, it should evoke feelings that are positive. They should look at your organization in a positive light based on how these things are articulated. A good mission statement will include purpose, customers, products, services, philosophy, and basic technology. So you're gonna want to touch on some of these things just so that they're getting information from you that's valuable, so they understand what the mission is. So again, we want it to be broad enough to be inviting to people, but we also want to address some very specific things within the mission statement so that it has some substance to it, really. The components of a mission statement include concern for your employees. Are you actually concerned for one of your most valuable resources, your human resources? Who are your firm's customers? The products and services that you have, what are they? Geographically, where do you compete? Where is your customer base, and how are you actually getting the products to them? What kind of technology do you have? Is it current technology? Concern for survival, growth, profitability. Are you committed to these things? Financial stability and things that are going to make sure that your company endures for the long term. Self-concept. What is the firm's distinctive competence or major competitive advantage? And finally, concern for public image. Is your firm responsive to social issues and things that are important to the community and environmental concerns, or does your organization just do things concerning the community and the environment when it's basically forced upon you by laws? Or are you proactive about these things because these are things that are very important to you as contributors to this community? Writing and evaluating mission statements. The man we talked about earlier, Jesus of Nazareth, he said, "Do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment." In other words, your vision and mission statement, who you want to be and what your business is, when you set those statements forward, they ought to reflect the reality of who you're trying to become as well as what your mission is. In other words, if what you do and what you say are not in alignment, then it's going to fall apart. People are going to see the hypocrisy. They're going to see that you're the type of organization that isn't committed to attaining to what you've said you are. So part of writing and evaluating mission statements and learning how to do it better is to look at how people have done it before you, which comes back to really one of the purposes of this class is to identify how ancient wisdom, ancient biblical wisdom, actually speaks into the current business environment and how we make decisions as managers and leaders and entrepreneurs. So we want to study other company mission statements and see how they've kind of gone about it, developing discernment and good judgment. And the Hershey's case study is going to help us with that. Embracing open communication, developing a culture where people are used to and comfortable expressing their opinions, expressing how they feel about the business, bringing grievances and expressing concerns. There needs to be an ongoing commitment to developing this type of an environment and a culture. Addressing divergent viewpoints. One of the greatest things about sitting down to develop a vision and mission statement is you are going to be able to identify where you may have thought there was agreement for a long period of time and operating under that assumption and discover, hey, we are definitely not on the same page here. What do we need to do to be able to come to an agreement and come to the same commitment to this thing that we're working together for? So it's an absolutely excellent opportunity to identify where there are divergent viewpoints by allowing everyone to communicate kind of how they perceive what's going on in your organization. And then taking those moments to find common ground, and once you're able to find common ground, to build on that and to then be able to move forward toward the vision in the mission to attain to the goal. In developing a vision and mission statement, again, here we see it's written, "Now there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit, and there are varieties of service, but the same Lord." So if you think back to the graphic that we talked about with the arrow all pointing in the same direction, but you had arrows within it that were going different directions and they were different colors. We had red and blue and purple. And the idea there was that everyone within the organization has skill sets and has things that are valuable to the organization, but they're not all the same. But we want to be able to harness all that diversity and put it in a situation so it's contributing to what we're doing as an organization. And again, that comes back to attaining to the vision that we set forth. So we want to consider our own organization or the organization that you're a part of and develop that vision or mission statement. So that's kind of going to be your homework over the next week or so as you consider writing a vision statement and a mission statement for the organization that you're with. Talk to people, ask them what they think the vision of your organization is, what they think the mission is, or if you have a formal vision and mission, evaluate what that actually is versus what your organization is doing, and talk to some other people about that as well at your organization. Maybe by realigning to that, you can do better. Maybe by rewriting it, you can do better. Just as you delve into it, the idea is to always be reforming, always coming back to this vision and mission statement and looking at it in comparison to where you actually are. Be prepared to share and discuss your experiences with the group, encouraging and warning one another so that you can all benefit. So you've all maybe had experiences with different organizations and trying to identify, what is it that we're trying to accomplish beyond just my individual job within this organization. And then from there, the mission, does this actually articulate what we actually do as a business in a way that I can connect with or not? And if not, let's put forth some different ideas and actually communicate those ideas. All right, and so next we're going to be talking about the internal assessment. Go ahead and take a 15-minute break and then come back, and then we're going to look at really what it means to delve into your organization, and in doing so, taking hold of some of your strengths and your weaknesses and working with those in order to become a stronger, more vibrant organization. All right, so welcome back to Strategic Management. We are looking now at doing an internal assessment of your organization. So once you have your vision and your mission statement articulated and your people are all on board, then it really comes time to evaluate what your organization has with regard to strengths and weaknesses. From a perspective of biblical wisdom, we talk about allowing God to search our hearts and to spend time reflecting on our lives and really what's going on within, so that we kind of clean the inside of the cup so that the things that are going on outside are going to be fruitful. And so doing an internal assessment as far as the organization is concerned is we're going to be discussing what the nature of that internal audit is, integrating strategy with culture, management, marketing, finance and accounting, production, operations, research and development, computer information systems. All of these things feed into what you are as an organization and how you do your business. And finally, we're going to come up with an internal factor evaluation matrix where we're going to take the information that we receive by going through some pretty in-depth questions regarding the organization that you're a part of, whether you're leading or managing, and by asking these questions, seeing where we are on a certain scale, so we can work on developing our strengths further, and also so that we can look at what weaknesses we have and see if we can shore those things up a little bit and become a stronger organization. So the nature of an internal audit. In the Gospel according to Luke, Jesus of Nazareth says, "Which of you, wishing to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost to see if he has the resources to complete it? Otherwise, if he lays the foundation and is unable to finish the work, everyone sees it and will ridicule him." And so when we consider this concept that Jesus of Nazareth sets forth, we want to make sure that we are the types of people who are able to do that internal inventory and make sure that we as an organization, we have the human resources, we have the resources financially and otherwise in the organization in order to accomplish what we set forth to do. So we want to identify what the key internal forces are that are driving your business. We want to look at distinctive competencies. What does your organization, your people as individuals and collectively, what do you guys do well? And how can you capitalize on that? Gather, assimilate, and evaluate information about an organization's operations. So as you communicate with your people, and if you have different divisions within your organization, seeing how they're actually interacting, or if they're not interacting at all, that can happen, and that's something that this whole process of strategic management can actually help, because you're bringing people together to spend time with one another and to communicate, who otherwise would kind of be just in their department doing what they do with really no idea how that contributes to what this other department does. And by them communicating together and communicating well, they can become more efficient, and you can gain what's called synergy from that, where you have two parts that working together actually create more than two because of the efficiencies that are gained there. Highly interactive. Again, the process has to be highly interactive. You as managers or as leaders, you have to take the lead on this and create the space, create the environment where people can come together and they can genuinely interact with one another, being honest about where their part of the organization is, what types of resources they have, how they're being utilized. Because if they feel that they come into this meeting and they're just going to get beat down, then they're kind of going to sit there like a wallflower and they're not going to participate, they're not going to put forth their concerns, and they're not going to take it seriously. But if you create a space where you are genuinely listening and facilitating a space where everyone is genuinely listening and contributing, then you're going to have a much more fruitful organization, and you're just going to be able to offer something to this community that is beyond what you're already doing. Financial ratio analysis. When you look at your company, by actually crunching some of the numbers and coming up with some key ratios regarding your current financial position, or you can do a quick ratio, or you can look at your sales versus your profitability. There's a number of different financial ratios that will help you to take a quantitative view of your company and where it is positioned. And you can also gather information from other sources that will tell you how organizations that are in the same business as yours are actually doing with these ratios and these different aspects of their businesses. And so you can kind of see, well, where are we in comparison with the overall industry? And that can be extremely helpful. Integrating strategy and culture. So Paul is an apostle of this man, Jesus of Nazareth, and Paul is sent out into the world in order to enter into groups of people and to kind of transform the way that they are doing life to a way that is more fruitful, more abundant, in order to bring just a whole nother quality of life to them. And he actually enters into an area of Athens, and it says this: "So Paul, standing in the midst of the Areopagus, said, 'Men of Athens, I perceive that in every way you are very religious.'" The Areopagus was kind of an area where thinkers and religious people would kind of gather and kind of discuss different ideas and different thoughts, and he addresses them, identifying where they were at. "I perceive that you are in every way very religious." So he looked at the landscape, he saw their icons, he saw their statues, he saw the way that they were interacting with one another, and he identified their culture as one that was very religious. So part of integrating strategy and culture is you have to first go in and identify and assess the organization's culture. Now, your culture is unique to your firm, and you have been building the culture ever since probably before your organization ever began. By who you are and by what you bring and the way that you interact with one another and the values that you have as an organization have informed your culture. Now, the culture of your organization, the internal culture of your organization, how that responds to change and transformation, how it's able to switch gears when business requires it, it matters. It's gonna matter whether changing direction is something that's very expensive and difficult or something that you can do with relative ease. In this particular situation, this man Paul entered into an area where they were steeped in all sorts of rites and ceremonies, beliefs, myths, cultural symbols, different values. These are products of the culture. You have products of your culture that reflect who you are as an organization within your organization. Organizational culture and shifting strategic direction. So he's entering into this culture. He's identifying they've got all these rights and all these things that they do. It's just the way that we've always done it, is basically what you'll hear a lot of times when you bring something new and fresh to the ears of your employees and to your internal organization, your internal stakeholders. So again, identifying and assessing the organization's culture first and foremost in this portion of strategic management is very vital to you as a decision maker, as one who's taking a leadership role in introducing this change or this transformation to a more strategic approach to the way that you lead the firm. So if we're going to look at management, the first area of kind of addressing internal issues is we're going to talk about how do we actually run things. How does that work currently, and what are the strengths and weaknesses within the way that we manage this organization. And managing includes planning, organizing, motivating, staffing, and controlling. How you do these things, if you do these things intentionally, it matters in how you manage your firm, how you're able to keep things running the way that they're supposed to. And so some key questions to ask as you are kind of doing this internal audit.
Tongues of fire come down, place upon us the crown. Confusion
be familiar with it,
jagged hearts be
you're going to have to kind of familiarize them with the process,
that every
then it's going to take a little bit more of an investment of time and money and
warriors stand tall.
Our company
Evil
objectives and goals
strongholds
measurable
fall.
and well communicated.
We like stones from
sit
a
down and
brook,
set objectives
a people
on a
never
quarterly,
forsook.
semi-annual, or annual
Your
basis
sin
with your
causing
employees, that
you
they
to
actually have
grieve.
something that they're working
Repent
towards,
and
other than
believe.
just coming in and
By
kind of doing their
grace
job,
through
going home
faith
at the end of the day,
be
and
still.
really just living
This
paycheck to
is
paycheck,
God's
collecting
will.
a check, and that's all they're really interested in. Your people can bring so much more to your organization than that. Do all managers at all hierarchical levels plan effectively? How is your management team working? I mean, do they have someone that they're reporting to, or someone who's mentoring them and helping them to become better leaders and better managers? Do the managers that you have delegate authority well? That's a difficult thing for a lot of people. By releasing authority to others, you're kind of in a position where you have to trust the people that are working with you. And a lot of times, managers can feel, well, I just would rather just do it myself because then I have direct control over it. But that's not good for your organization over the long term. Your managers should be delegating authority because it gives them the opportunity to work with and develop the people that report to them. And so that's going to develop your future leaders, essentially, so that you have an ongoing concern for your employees' development. And even if your employees don't stay with you, even if they move to another position at another organization, if you contribute to their well-being and you contribute to their professional development while they're with you, and they have transferable skills, they're always going to speak highly of you and your organization, and that is exceptionally valuable. Is the organization's structure appropriate? How is your business structured? Are you a sole proprietorship? Are you a C Corp? How are you structured legally? How are you structured practically? Looking at those things and how management affects those areas of your organization is very important. So you want to wrestle with that question. Are job descriptions and job specifications clear? When you onboard a new employee to your business, do they know what you're asking of them during their time of employment with you? Are you clearly articulating that? Do you actually have written job descriptions for the different positions within your business? Having that is helpful to you, and it's helpful to the people that you're onboarding. Is employee morale high? If not, why not? How can we raise employee morale? This process is part of that. An employee who feels connected and an employee who feels like you actually value their input is going to be far, far more excited about coming to work and doing a great job and doing something of value for your organization and for the community that they serve through your organization than someone who feels that, again, they're just kind of getting through the day. Are employee turnover and absenteeism low? Low morale typically is going to lead to a high turnover of employees, and it's going to result in a lot of absenteeism, a lot of tardiness, and things like that that can cost you money, and it can in so many ways. So, want to take a look at that. And are organizational reward and control mechanisms effective? Having a way to reward your employees when they do well is a good thing. And it doesn't have to always be financial rewards, though it can be. Having your people come up with little competitions within the organization and maybe giving them a gift card or something, or recognizing them as being an employee of the month or something at the next meeting, and really giving some substance to the fact that you are looking for people who are committed to doing a good job for you and setting a good example for their coworkers. So do you have organizational reward and control mechanisms that are effective? Control mechanisms would basically be things that would help you to redirect people who are kind of getting off track with what you're trying to accomplish as an organization, or maybe in their role. This could be a training issue. It could be a need for a corrective action. It could be a number of different things, but knowing that you have these things in place to help your people to develop is so incredibly important to being good leaders and good managers. So how your management situation is one of the first things that we want to look at as you're doing this internal evaluation. The next one that we're looking at is marketing. Marketing is going to consist of customer analysis, how you look at your customer, how do you identify what's important to them and how they're interacting with your product and service. Selling products and services, how are you presenting your value proposition to the marketplace? Are you communicating what you do and who you are and what you have to offer in a way that it's received as something that is of value and can actually add something positive to your consumers that are coming to you for that product or service? Product and service planning. Do you have new products in the pipeline? Are you reevaluating existing products as you are interacting with customers? And what does that process look like? And how do you go about doing that? Pricing. Are you making sure that you're competitive? Have you thought through, where are we in relationship to other competitors in the area who make a similar product? Distribution. How are you taking your product or service and actually getting it to the end user? And are there inefficiencies in that process that can be addressed in order to save money for your organization? Marketing research and opportunity analysis, cost and benefit analysis. This is essentially saying, okay, we're doing this in order to market our company, and these are the benefits that we're actually reaping. Or are you just kind of throwing money at marketing ideas without tracking, what is it costing you on say a per lead basis? Or if you put in a coupon in the local newspaper, how many of those did you actually get back versus the cost of actually placing that advertisement, and was it valuable or was it not valuable? Oh, and doing marketing research, researching what is effective ways to reach your client base in your geographic area that you're serving. Are you researching how you're actually touching? Are you researching these touch points with your customer that are had through marketing materials and marketing channels in order to make sure that you're utilizing again, the opportunity analysis is going to help you to discover that. Key marketing questions. Are markets segmented effectively? Again, are you reaching the people that you're trying to reach where they're at with your product or service? Is the organization positioned well among competitors? Looking at your competition, who else does what you do in your area? How are they doing it? And how do you stack up in comparison? Has the firm's market share been increasing? Is your business growing? Are more people coming to you than going to your competitors? And if not, why not? What needs to change for you to be a leader in this community in your specific business? Are present channels of distribution reliable and cost effective? Again, how are you getting your product or service to your customers? This could be something as simple as redesigning your online presence, your internet website. It could relate to maybe you have vehicles and you have a fleet of vehicles that you actually get your employees to I don't know, clean pools or something like that. Do you have the most economical vehicles in your fleet currently, or can you save money by reevaluating that? Does the firm have an effective sales organization? What is your approach to sales? Are you more kind of laissez-faire, like whoever comes to us and buys our stuff, they do, or are you more proactive, where you actually engage the community, you actually speak into the community what your product or service is and why they should actually come to you and take part in this value that you're offering them? Does the firm conduct market research? Do you actually look into the marketplace that you're serving on a regular basis and find out what are the trends and what are the ways that you can invest your money more effectively in order to get your products into the hands of the people that are going to be the end users? Are product quality and customer service good? Absolutely central. Are your customers happy with your products? Are they quality? And if not, why not? Your customer service, if something happens with the quality, do you have someone who is able to fix the problem in a way that's satisfactory to the customer so that you maintain a solid reputation for the type of organization who stands by what they do? That's absolutely key to integrity and ethics within the business place. Are product quality and customer service good? Are the firm's products and services priced appropriately? Again, this comes back to looking at what is the competition doing, what is the economy doing, who are you within the market space? Are you a low-cost leader or are you a premium product company? Are you looking to bring premium products that demand higher prices, or are you trying to be a low-cost leader so that you can kind of be a value play for your customer? Does the firm have an effective promotion, advertising, and publicity strategy? Have you ever developed a publicity strategy for your organization? Have you sat down and created like an annual plan of how you want to actually present your product and service to the company or to the marketplace on an ongoing basis? Very, very important question to ask. Are marketing planning and budget effective? How much money are you actually putting towards marketing, and are you getting your money's worth? Have you gone a period of time without doing certain types of advertising and found that, it didn't make much of a difference by doing that, so we switched to this, and guess what? We got more return on our investment, so we're doing more of that. Whether it be TV advertising, newspaper advertising, traditional print, or online advertising, there's a number of different ways and touch points within the community that you can take hold of that can help you to grow your business. And do the firm's marketing managers have adequate experience and training? Who is doing your marketing? Who is shaping the face of your organization? Because that's important. And do they know what they are doing? And if they don't know what they are doing, or if they could be better at it, are you willing to invest in them? and to help them to maybe take some seminar classes, or develop their skill sets more so that they can be more effective. Investing into your people, especially key players like your marketing people or your management, so incredibly important, because that's going to build loyalty, because you're investing in them, and they know that you're willing to invest financial resources and time in mentoring them and making sure they have access to what is needful for them to be better at what they do. So that's absolutely key. Do the firm's marketing managers have adequate experience and training? Finance and accounting. 3 key things with finance and accounting: investment decisions, financing decisions, and finally dividend decisions. As an organization, you're choosing to invest money in certain areas. You have a number of different strategies that you could participate in, and those strategies are going to cost money. So it's so incredibly important to select the strategies that are going to be most effective at accomplishing what you're looking to accomplish as an organization. And from a financial perspective, making sure you're maximizing your return on investment. Financing decisions. When you decide to utilize a strategy and you identify what the costs are going to be, how are you going to pay for it? Do you have capital in the bank, or are you going to have to take financing and take on additional debt? Or maybe you're going to approach individual investors or private investors that are going to be issuing stock. There's a number of different ways where that you can actually finance the organization and finance the strategies that you choose to implement. But once you decide to make that investment, you have to know where that money is coming from and what is the lowest cost of capital that you have available to you with the best terms, considering how you're going to cause those funds to flourish, to build the organization. Dividend decisions. Do you pay out dividends to shareholders? Historically speaking, companies that pay out dividends and keep shareholders happy, it's a good thing. But if your organization can take those monies that would be paid out in dividends and reinvest them and grow the company so that the value of the overall company increases far more than having just paid it out, it may be wise not to pay dividends in that situation. And so you have to evaluate those things. So key things regarding finance and accounting: investment decisions. What do we actually want to put our financial resources to work doing? Financing decisions, where we're going to get the money from. And dividend decisions. Once we start making money back, how do we want to distribute those monies within the organization? Do we reinvest it, or do we pay down debt or pay shareholders? Basic types of financial ratios that will help you to discover where you are competitively with other companies in your same industry would be liquidity ratios, leverage ratios, activity ratios, profitability ratios, and growth ratios. Very quick example of that: liquidity ratio would basically look at what you have as far as liquid assets versus what your liabilities are, and could you pay your bills relatively quickly with what you have. And there's a quick ratio, which is kind of a scaled down version of that. If you really needed the money really fast, could we pay these short-term obligations with cash on hand or assets that we could very quickly liquidate? So knowing where you are financially and how financially solvent you are as an organization, and keeping a close eye on that, is very important. Very important as we're doing this internal audit and kind of seeing where we are as an organization. Key finance accounting questions to be asking: where is the firm strong or weak based on financial ratios? So again, looking at everything from, can we pay our short-term bills, to how's our inventory turnover? Or we have stuff sitting on the shelf for a long period of time. what is our return on investment, our return on our assets, how is our book value, what are our earnings per share, and different questions like that, different ratios that you would need to be aware of in order to kind of compare yourself, not only against yourself kind of on an ongoing basis, but also against your competition. Because if you have a company that's more financially solvent than you are, then if there's a shift in the marketplace or a downturn, they're going to be able to weather the storm a lot better than you are, and that's something that you have to consider. Can the firm raise needed short-term capital? Do you have access to funds? Have you verified that you have something in place that if you needed to get funds quickly for your organization, that you have that available to you? Having that in place before you actually need it is a good thing. Can the firm raise needed long-term capital through debt and or equity? Do you have lines of credit with the local bankers? Do you have investors who have committed certain capital or have stated that they would back you in certain areas? And are you maintaining those relationships with them? Does the firm have sufficient working capital on a day-to-day basis? Do you have the monies to do your business on a regular basis, to pay your vendors, to make sure you have cash in your cash drawers? Those types of things are absolutely necessary in ongoing business operations, as I'm sure you're aware. Are capital budgeting procedures effective? How do you do your budgeting? Do you sit down with your team of managers? Is there open communication in those situations where you're actually able to gather some ideas to cause these processes to be more financially efficient, and how you're spending your money via the budget? Are dividend payout policies reasonable? Does the firm have good relations with its investors and stockholders? Communicating with your investors how your business is doing is absolutely vital, because the people that are invested and have a vested interest in your organization, those are your cheerleaders. Those are the folks who really want you to do well, because your success results in their success, financially speaking. So if you're communicating well with them, not only are they going to feel more comfortable that they've made a wise investment choice, but you may have future access to funds by maintaining that open communication and that open dialogue and making sure that they're aware of what's going on with the organization. Are the firm's financial managers experienced and well-trained? Again, this comes back to evaluating where your people are. And as you develop ongoing employment development programs, making sure that your people are getting the training, the encouragement, the motivation that they need in order to develop, in order to be just what they're capable of. Because oftentimes, we become more capable of really great things the more experienced we get, specifically within an organization. But what happens is, if you have people in an organization and they're there for a long time, they can really slide into the doldrums and they can really become comfortable and basically just kind of floating along. And man, that's not what you want. You want a people that is constantly being motivated, constantly being encouraged, constantly being built up, so that you have the type of culture that's energetic, that is bringing something of real value to the community. Production and operations. This is absolutely important. I'm not sure who of you is working for an actual, more of a manufacturing organization, but how you produce your product and the operations, there can be so many efficiencies found in those situations that as you look at the process, the capacity, your inventory, your workforce, and your quality control or your quality of your product, as you look at how these things happen and how what you produce is actually coming to market, you can find ways to make your products far better. You can make sure that you look at these things, your production and your operations, as you engage in kind of analyzing this. This is a great way to discover efficiencies that maybe you've never realized were there before. A great way to communicate with your people. A great way to really to be able to provide a better product or service to this community by looking at your efficiencies. Think about the assembly line. How much value that brought to manufacturing within the United States by streamlining certain things and being able to produce more with less. It's a tremendous area to focus on as you're doing internal evaluations. And it doesn't have to be assembly line. If you look at how your relationships are with your vendors and getting the products that you need in order to produce a final product and getting that to your customers, and that whole process of taking those raw materials and turning it into something of value and adding value to it, this is really absolutely important. Your workforce, how are you doing your hiring? How are you doing your onboarding, your training? Absolutely vital. When you talk about human resources in production operations, absolutely key. So some questions that we have here concerning production operations. Are suppliers of raw materials, parts, and subassemblies, are they reliable and reasonable? Shopping those things around, making sure that you have people in place that can actually get you those things that are necessary in order for you to continue your ongoing business in an efficient way. I believe Honda at one point in time became the most efficient producer of automobiles that existed, being able to go basically produce a product, an end product, within 15 days within the auto industry, which was absolutely unheard of at the time. And I think Toyota has what they call a just-in-time inventory management, where they are actually connected with their suppliers electronically. So as they are using parts in order to produce their product, computer systems are automatically sending that data to their suppliers, and they're shipping out new products. So you have a smooth flow of process going on that is absolutely really put them above all the competition with regard to their efficiencies. Are faculties, equipment, machinery, and offices in good condition? Take a walk around with your people and your organization and find out, do you have equipment that's antiquated? Do you have facilities that need to be, revamped in order to create an environment that is of course safe, but also conducive with a motivated workforce? Are inventory control policies and procedures effective? A lot of times, especially if you work in retail, growing up as a kid, my mom owned a small restaurant, and we had great employees, we had great relationships, but every once in a while we would get somebody and we'd have boxes of steaks going out the back door, and that becomes a problem. Being able to identify those issues, being able to identify problems and dealing with them directly, and having those systems in place to be able to manage your inventory. Are quality control policies and procedures effective? The quality of your product, you want to know the quality of your product and how you're doing with that before you start getting complaints from customers. And that means having policies in place and doing quality checks on an ongoing basis to see, make sure that what you're intending to produce, products or services, is happening the way that it needs to. Are faculties, resources, and markets strategically located? Have you placed, consider, how are you being taxed? How, are there grants that are available for your businesses to be where they are? How is the local municipalities and governments, how are they operating in a way that is friendly to small business, medium-sized business, large business, in order to create a space within Statesville where we have products and services and jobs that are top notch. And does the firm have technological competencies? You know, nowadays the technology that is available is absolutely amazing. Going back to the idea of the restaurant business, there are scheduling programs now where the manager can set the schedule for all of the wait staff and cooks and everything on the computer. But if an employee can't show up for some reason, they can actually log on to their computer from their smartphone and say, "Hey, I can't work this shift. Is anyone else willing to pick that shift up for me?" And the other members of the team will get an email saying, "Hey, there's an open shift. I'm off today. I can use a little extra money." And they'll go ahead and jump in and say, "I'll take that," right online, and it completely takes that stress off of the manager. Amazing technologies that are available. And that's what the technology is there for. It's to look at problems and say, how can we solve these issues and make it easier on the leaders and empower the employees. In that case, that employee was able to take care of the situation themselves without having to trouble their manager, and the manager still had the human resources that they needed in order to be able to run their shift properly. It's amazing, really, and there are technologies out there like that can help you with your organization. Next, we're going to look at research and development. You know, in your organization, do you have superior products and services? What are your competitive advantages? And the research and development, are you doing all your research and development of products and services within your organization? Or are you outsourcing that? And if you're outsourcing that, are you getting your money's worth? New and improved products in the pipeline, keeping that going on an ongoing basis, making sure that you have something new that's fresh, that your customers are going to enjoy, is going to keep your business relevant. Now, that's not to say that you don't want to have those cash cows, as it were, that are the products and services that are your core competencies that may change, may transform over time, but ultimately, you know, it's a staple of who you are as an organization and what you actually produce. But you know, having new products in the pipeline, depending on your type of organization, and improved products, absolutely key. How you come up with those is the question, though. How are you spending your money on research and development, and are you getting a good return on your investment? So questions to ask with key research and development. Does the firm have R&D facilities, and are they adequate? If outside R&D firms are used, are they cost effective? Are the organization's R&D personnel well qualified? This comes back to the training issue and making sure that you're investing in your people in their ongoing professional and personal development. Are R&D resources allocated effectively? Are management information and computer systems adequate? You know, when you look at how your information systems are contributing to the value of your company or your organization, is there something better out there that's cost effective? You know, nowadays you can spend $1 million, far more than millions of dollars, to bring in, you know, customer relationship management software and training and all this stuff to roll something out that may be so incredibly cumbersome that you end up scrapping it a few years later, never actually realizing the value that you initially expected. So make sure that you shop these things appropriately and get as much feedback as possible before you make major decisions like that. But again, you know, having those sorts of things in place can powerfully impact your organization so that you have the information that you need when you need it in order to make sure that your employees are dealing with what they have in front of them in a way that's effective and efficient. Is communication between R&D and other organizational units effective? Again, are they communicating with your frontline people and determining, you know, the information that they need in order to develop these future products and services? And do your people who are selling your product, the people that are preparing your product or producing your product, do they have channels where they can communicate to the R&D people directly, some things that customers are giving them feedback and things that we can do better? You want to have those lines of communication not only open, but you want to encourage that type of communication. Are present products technologically competitive? Where are you in relationship with what your competitors are bringing to market from a technology standpoint? Are you utilizing what you have in a way that actually hits those touch points where your customers are? Computer information systems is the next thing that we're really going to delve into. We've touched on it a little bit, but gathering, organizing, storing, processing, informing, and sharing. This is the purpose of a communications system. To gather information that the managers need, that the decision makers need, that your frontline people need, to gather all that information together, to organize it effectively. Think about Microsoft Outlook. Your email system. How many emails that you have to answer on a daily basis to respond to, or your phone systems, how your phone system actually juggles phone lines, how the hold system works. Do you have recordings in place, and who do you have checking those recordings? Is that computerized? Do you get notifications on your email or on your smartphone that these things are going on within your organization? Everything really is able to be linked together so that you have very minimal delay in having real-time information regarding what's going on in your organization. How that's organized and disseminated is absolutely imperative. How is it stored? If you have sensitive customer data, it has to be stored appropriately for the protection of your customers as well as your own protection. So information security is absolutely vital to most businesses these days. It's got to process it, make sure that you have the technology like the hardware that actually can process the data quickly, efficiently, and in order to get it to the end user. Inform. Once you're able to kind of analyze all this data and use this computer systems to get the information you need to allow your business to interact with the marketplace in an effective way, you need to make sure that that information gets there quickly and people know how to access it and utilize it in order to be able to share that information with the people that it's important to. So key CIS questions. Do all managers in the organization use information systems to make decisions? Is there a CIO or Director of Information Systems position within your organization? Are the data in the information system updated regularly? Who inputs the data, and how does that whole process work? These are things that we want to be kind of looking at as we're evaluating the internal organization. Do managers from all functional areas of your firm contribute to the information system? Can they feed into this system that processes data and brings what we need as leaders and managers, information to be able to make informed decisions regarding the business? Is there sufficient system security? Are strategists familiar with the information systems of rivals? Is the information system user-friendly? This is absolutely key. There's a lot of computer systems out there, but if your people aren't trained on them and they can't figure out how to use them, or they need to have a master's degree just to be able to log in and check their email, or they've got 50 passwords from different systems that you use, that can cost you a lot in the long term. So making sure that your information system is user-friendly. Do all users of the information system understand the competitive advantages that information can provide firms? In other words, if your people don't know how your information and the quality of that information adds value to your organization and helps you to be more strategically placed within the marketplace over and against your competitors, then then you have some work to do to communicate that to them and help them to understand the value. And that means coming alongside them, making sure they know how to use it, making sure they know how the big picture looks, so that when they're doing their part, they can maintain that vision that they are part of something bigger than just typing data and doing data entry all day long, that it actually has value to the firm and to the customer. Are computer training workshops provided for users of the information system? Again, this comes back to making sure that your people are well trained, that they are developing their computer skills and their technology skills on an ongoing basis. It's good for you and it's good for them, and it's something to encourage. Now, I understand that sometimes you may have employees that really aren't interested in growing or developing, or at least they think they're not. A good manager or a good leader can work with someone and help them to become a motivated person, help them to see their value where they are now and how they have the potential to be more than they presently are as you work as an organization to attain, again, to that vision that you set forth. Who do we want to be? Find out who that person wants to be, and work with them with that. And that comes down to how you do your training, how you do your mentoring, how you invest in your human resources. Is the firm's information system continually being improved in content and user friendliness? When you roll out technology and you have a bunch of people using it, taking the feedback that they have, having a place for them to direct that feedback is absolutely important. We have been talking about bringing people together, communicating and having open communication, developing vision and mission. The information system, that's one of those, that's a microcosm of what you're trying to do as an organization on an ongoing basis. You have something that everyone is utilizing that can be either useful and user-friendly, or something that can be basically a drag to use and a complete pain, really. So communicating those things, identifying the strengths and weaknesses of your information systems, and allowing your people the opportunity to communicate those things so that you can develop in an ongoing basis. All very important questions to be wrestling with when you consider the computer information systems that your organization is using. Like a clicker, making sure that you have a clicker that works. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the internal factor evaluation matrix. This is a strategy formulation tool. It's basically a basis for identifying and evaluating the relationships of everything that we've talked about tonight. It has 5 primary steps to be able to help you to take all this data that you have collected through your interactions, through your productive meetings, and as you consolidate that to a matrix so that you can see all of that in one place, it's going to help you to identify strengths and weaknesses in a way that's quantifiable. So IFE matrix step 1, you're going to list key internal factors as identified in the internal audit process. Use maybe 10 to 20 different internal factors, include strengths and weaknesses, and list your strengths first and then the weaknesses. And you want to be as specific as possible using percentages and actual data points as much as possible. IFE matrix step 2, you're going to then assign a weight value to each of those factors that you identified. The weight factor is going to be between 0.0 and 1.0. And basically with the weight assigned to the given factor, the relative importance of that particular factor. So you're going to have this list of things that's important to your organization, strengths and weaknesses, and you're going to say, okay, well, this one's the most important, this one's a little less important, this one's really important, and so on and so forth. and your numbers that you're going to use 0.0 to 1.0, and as you add all of those things up together, the final number should be 1.0. That's going to be the sum of all the weight of the different factors. Step 3. So we have our list of factors. We've weighted all the factors and what's most important to our industry. Now we're going to assign a 1 to 4 rating to each factor, and the purpose of that is to indicate where the major weaknesses and strengths are. So if it gets a rating of a number 1, that's going to be a major weakness. A minor weakness would be a rating of 2. A minor strength would be a rating of 3. A major strength would be a rating of 4. And then note that your strengths are going to be 3s and 4s, and your weaknesses are going to be 2s and 1s. And the ratings here are company-based, whereas the weights that we looked at before, that's based on the factors that are important to the overall industry, where you are within the industry. So you're looking at the industry weighting, and then you're assigning within your organization what your actual rating is. Step 4, you're going to multiply each factor's weight by its rating to determine a score for each of the variables. And then finally, the sum of the weighted scores for each variable is going to determine the total weighted score for your organization. So if you have, let's say, for instance, anything lower than a 2.5, then you've got some serious weaknesses going on within your organization. Anything over a 2.5, then you're going to have, you're doing pretty well. You're over average. And so that's going to end up looking something like this. So this is an example of an IFE matrix done by Green Mountain Coffee Roasters. And so we see the key internal factors. For them, internal strengths included one of leading company in established market, quality of product, large varieties, high technology use, longer shelf life of product, customer brand loyalty, social responsibility practices, brand awarenesses. They identified internal weaknesses of past failure in strategic decision, narrow concentration of the market segment, inappropriate strategic vision, little brand presence, and few strategic alliances. And so here we see the weighting, the rating, and then the weighted score. And then again, if you finally end up with something over a 2.5, then you've done well. You're above average. You're pretty strong as an organization. Under 2.5, you're more on the weak side. And so once you identify those things, your strengths and your weaknesses internally, well, then you can discover where you want to actually invest some resources in developing your organization, restructuring, and doing what needs to do to make the most use of your strengths, and in identifying your weaknesses, what do we need to do to correct these things? Thank you.
Tongues of fire come down, place upon us the crown. Confusion be removed, jagged hearts be smoothed. Hear clearly now that every knee should bow. Mashiach's warriors stand tall, evil strongholds fall. We like stones from a brook, a people never forsook. Your sin causing you to grieve, repent and believe. By grace through faith be still, this is God's will.